Hello everybody, welcome to the MaffmanJones movie show. I am your host, John Maffio, and today is the day, it's the time, it's the now. These are my top 10 movies of 2019. I always love making these videos because I really just love sharing movies that people may or may not have seen, casual audiences or people who have seen all these movies, just sharing my thoughts and just my lists with everybody and all of you. I just really have fun doing this year in and year out. But I do want to get to honorable mentions too, but I just want to say off the top, to preface this entire thing, as always, this list is subjective. Movies are subjective. It's art. We all come in and out of movies and we feel different ways. We all have our unique individual opinions. So these top movies, I take a lot into an account when I actually make these lists. I kind of take in the craftsmanship of it and just the overall way a movie is made. But I also take into account replayability, rewatchability, movies that I can go back and watch and really find something in. Sometimes a movie I really love the first time, I'll watch a second time and not feel the same impact. So it kind of affects the way I make my list. So without further ado, let's get into it. But first, let's get honorable mentions out of the way, because these are some really great movies. It was a great year for movies in general. I just found a lot of really good small movies that I hope people get the chance to watch, and I just want to share the love for these movies that may or may not have been talked about before. And I have a feeling a lot of these movies have not been talked about as much as they should. Here are the honorable mentions for movies in 2019. First up is Sweetheart. It's a movie that's kind of like Castaway, but also Creature of the Black Lagoon. It has fun horror elements. I think it's a blast to watch. Crawl. It's another secluded, isolated movie where it's just people trapped in a house in Florida trying to stay away from hungry crocodiles. Hungry hippos. I wanted to say that, but I didn't. But this is a movie that's definitely worth seeing. It's a fun ride, and it's actually pretty scary for what it's worth. Dr. Sleep, directed by Mike Flanagan, who is a great horror movie director right now. It's a sequel to the 1980 movie The Shining by Stanley Kubrick, but it's also a sequel to the book written by Stephen King. And it does something different, and not everybody appreciated it, but I did, certainly. And it's a long ride, but I think it's really worth it to get to that last act. And I think Rebecca Ferguson is a queen. High Life, directed by Claire Denis, stars Robert Pattinson, who's one of my favorite actors working right now. I'm usually not a fan when a movie leaves me cold, high, and dry, but this really left an impact on me, and I think if you are interested in little indie movies and Robert Pattinson, you should check this one out too. Us, it's a movie that was a little divided with critics and fans. The more I thought about it over the year, the more I really appreciated it. I love the music in it, I just love the concept, and I think it's a pretty well executed horror movie that has some great thrills, and I think time is going to be very kind to this movie. I have a great feeling about that. Peanut Butter Falcon, it stars Shia LaBeouf and Dakota Johnson and newcomer Zach Gossigan, and this is a movie that I really took a great liking to. It's a really heartwarming story. It's about wrestling and about fighting for your dreams, no matter how hard it is to get there. And it's got this little indie flair to it, and it's got really good performances. Shia LaBeouf is so good in this movie. Under the Silver Lake, starring Andrew Garfield. It's a mystery thriller with comedic elements. It's an old golden age Hollywood movie set in modern times. Dolomite Is My Name. Eddie Murphy is incredible in this movie. He's having quite the comeback lately. It's very funny, it's also very heartwarming, and it just puts a big damn smile on your face. And what more can you ask for a movie when it just leaves you feeling pleasant for an entire time? Ad Astra, another space movie starring Brad Pitt this time. It's just impeccably shot. I love a lot of the elements of this movie in exploring the near future of space travel. In a movie theater, I was just entranced by this, and I really want to watch this again as soon as possible. One of the best movies of the year for sure. I just couldn't get it to my top 10. Knives Out, directed by Ryan Johnson. It's a whodunit thriller, but it's also hilarious, and it's a new twist on the whodunit mystery. The Farewell, directed by Lulu Wang. It's surprisingly not the movie I expected it to be. It does have melancholy moments, and it is sad, and it does explore the idea of saying goodbye to family members in a way that feels very intimate, but it also is very lighthearted and hilarious, and the way it does, again, explore this culture and what they do in these situations is very interesting. And the last movie that I just couldn't get to my top 10 was Parasite. This is definitely, without a doubt, one of the most unique movies I've seen in a long time. I can't even really explain it. I don't want to explain it. I just want you to just watch it and then find out for yourselves. But it blends a multitude of genres together, but this movie is a movie you need to see as soon as possible because it's that good. Alright, those are my top 10. Wait, that was just the honorable mentions? Oh yeah, that's right. I have a whole list to talk about now. Let's get into it. Here are my top 10 movies of 2019. John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. I struggled with this immensely. I gotta be honest. I gotta tell you the truth. There are movies on the honorable mentions list I wanted to place in the top 10 ranking, but the more I think about it, the more I realized that it had to be John Wick 3 because it's a damn enjoyable action movie that somehow exceeds the expectations of a third chapter of any kind of movie in any trilogy. John Wick Chapters 1 and 2 are both really good movies in my eyes. I love the first one, and I think I put the second one in my top 10 too for that year too. But I'm blown away. I'm entranced by the action sequences of this movie and how they were accomplished and how they were edited and how they were choreographed, and Keanu Reeves just putting in a hell of a performance physically, and I just appreciate the details and the atmosphere and learning more about the mythology of this world. It brings me great pleasure to have this at number 10. Jojo Rabbit is directed by Taika Waititi and is a story about a little German boy who is a fanatic of Hitler. But when his mom, played by Scarlett Johansson, brings a Jewish girl into her home to hide from the Nazis, he kind of learns a thing or two about maybe being a fan of Hitler and just being a fan of Nazis is not the best thing. It is funny. It's not laugh out loud funny, but it has really fun moments. It has a really colorful cast. But there's one part in this movie that kind of just like took me back. It floored me emotionally. I was crying. And then the rest of the movie is one of the most heartwarming, inspiring things I've seen all year. I'm starting to like get emotional thinking about it. I'm getting emotional thinking about it. I always do this. It's definitely Taika Waititi's most important movie that he's ever made, and I think you should watch it. 1917, directed by Sam Mendes. This is the movie that just destroyed my list because I saw it literally a couple days ago, and I was floored by its technical filmmaking on display here. It's a technical feat. It's a storytelling feat. How they did this. You're basically going through the moment-to-moment experience of these two soldiers, and you're basically like the 12th man in Seattle with the Seahawks. You're the third soldier on this line, and you're going through the POV. You never know on a moment-to-moment basis, is a gunshot going to go off? Is one of them going to die? You start to become concerned for yourself, even though you're just a spectator watching this movie. You're like, am I going to make it out? Am I going to make it out of this? It really nails down the horrors of war, the spontaneity of war, the unexpectedness of war, and not really knowing what you're getting on a day-to-day basis. 1917 is my number 8. The Irishman, directed by Marvel hater Martin Scorsese. This is probably one of Martin Scorsese's best movies. It's gonna take a long time to really let this simmer and really think about this. It's got everything you want from a Marty movie when it comes to mobsters and just seeing that lifestyle played out on screen. It presents the luxuries of this lifestyle on screen in a way that makes it entertaining to watch, but at the same time, for most of the movie, it's just kind of this little thing boiling underneath the film that doesn't explode until the third act, and then that's when it really hits you what the main theme of this movie is all about, and it just really hit me like a ton of bricks. I just sat there during the credits. I couldn't even say anything. I just kind of sat there and thought a lot. It's about gangsters, but you can relate to this on a very intimate level when it comes to Robert De Niro's character by the end of it. It's my number 7, The Irishman. Uncut Gems, directed by the Safdie brothers, a movie that almost gave me an anxiety attack. I almost had to leave the theater for a minute because I sat there and I started just going like this, and I'm like, all right, pull it together, you're fine. The Safdie bros have such an intrinsically gritty way of telling a story, but also obnoxiously too, but in a very authentic way of a New York City lifestyle. You have Adam Sandler here. He's a jeweler, but he's always making the wrong decisions. This whole thing is a giant roller coaster ride of bad decisions, and you watching this movie and you just want to reach in and grab Adam Sandler and go, what are you doing? Why? But in the best way, because you're so engaged in this journey that Adam Sandler's character is going through, and you just want something good to happen. This movie really captures the insanity of chaos in a bottle that happens to be a 2-hour movie. Uncut Gems is my number 6.
You having a good time?
Yes.
Avengers Endgame. The culmination of over 20 movies over the course of 11 years, starting with Iron Man in 2008. What else do you say about this movie? It took 11 years to get here, and it satisfied in all the ways I thought it would, and other ways I didn't think it would. It made me cry multiple times. I was sobbing like a baby throughout this movie. It explores really interesting themes of being a superhero and what it really explores with the loneliness and the grief of being a superhero and what happens within the context of these movies. It really captures the essence of the comic book, and it also captures the essence of human emotions. It is the satisfying conclusion that people wanted from this franchise, and seeing all these characters together and seeing them fight together and seeing, it's just a blast of a movie. It's a feat of filmmaking. Kevin Feige, the producer, can't give him enough credit. He helped put this all together. He's the mastermind behind all this. And kind of like Star Wars in 1977, we're never going to get this ever again. We're going to get movies that people come to see in theaters and make a lot of money, but you'll never get this culmination of storytelling ever again. Avengers Endgame is my number 5. Ford v Ferrari, directed by James Mangold, is one of the most satisfying, crowd-pleasing movies I've seen in a long time. I really enjoyed the hell out of this, and I can't tell you, there are fewer movies this year that I just had the best time with watching throughout. Every scene, I felt the magnetic pulse of the filmmaking, the magnetic pulse of the acting on display, the interactions between Matt Damon and Christian Bale, and the supporting cast. It pushes all the right buttons for me personally. It's also a great thrill ride. The sequences of driving are like, it's you're put in the seat of Christian Bale, who is the driver of this movie, and you really get the brotherhood of these two main characters, and what they're fighting for. The journey of the story really brought me to a place where I really appreciated where it went, the trajectory of the story anyway. It's, again, very crowd-pleasing, a hell of a motion picture. It kind of reminds me of a movie that you would see in the 1970s or early 1980s, and I recommend this very highly. It's my number 4. It's Ford v Ferrari, but I always say Ford versus Ferrari, because what the hell. Marriage Story, directed by Noah Baumbach. I had the pleasure of seeing this during the New York Film Festival in early October, so I saw it a little bit earlier than everybody else. Humble brag. The reason why this movie is so high on my list as it is because it really blends the tones together, really blends, and it finds the humor in divorce and finds humor in the complexities of a relationship between a man and a woman, or just relationships in general, but in this case a man and a woman, between Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. And it really shows in an interesting way how divorce can really pull away two people who have loved each other for a very long time. I think what really impressed me with this movie is that it is funny. It's really funny. It's kind of hilarious in a lot of instances. But then when the drama kicks in, the drama is some of the most impactful drama I've seen in film this year. Everybody's been posting about it on Twitter out of context, but the argument scene leading up to it and then getting to it is one of the most punch you in the stomach and leave you bleeding on the floor, get kicked more when you're down moments I've seen in any movie, probably in a very long time. But Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver put in some of the best performances they've ever had in their entire career, and it's very sad. I'm not taking that away. It's very sad. And for a lot of people, I understand if you don't want to watch a movie like this. But for me, it brought perspective into my life that I didn't know I needed. And it's just a very impactful movie, and it's one of the best movies of 2019. Netflix killed it this year. Marriage Story is my number 3. Yeah, The Lighthouse, directed by Robert Eggers. This movie is just a delight. I love this movie. Willem Dafoe, Robert Pattinson, black and white, seagulls, two people stuck in a lighthouse post together for 5 weeks with nothing but themselves, and Willem Dafoe farts a lot. He says things that don't make sense. Robert Pattinson's normal, and he's like, I can't do this. I can't work with this gentleman. I can't do it. But he has to. He has no choice. And it's just two men driving each other insane in this very isolated environment, and it's such a wonderful movie. It's so artsy, but in the best way for me. In the theater, I was so engulfed in this experience, and I want to watch this over and over and over again. People loved The Witch, Robert Eggers' last movie, and I didn't love that movie, but I love this movie. And I just love how ridiculously insane it is. Kind of similar to Uncut Gems in the sense where it's kind of capturing chaos in a bottle, and it's lightning in a bottle, and in some cases literally. You don't really know what's real and what's not. The Lighthouse is the perfect blend of acting display, craftsmanship, editing, and just visual beauty. This movie is a painting, a moving painting. And it also happens to have Willem Dafoe as Captain McAllister from The Simpsons, just getting increasingly drunk, just saying things, obscenities that don't make sense, just telling stories about lobsters, and then screaming for no reason. You have Robert Pattinson who just, he's the person, he's us. Robert Pattinson is you or me. I can't tell you guys enough. I love The Lighthouse. May not be for you. This, for me, is pure cinematic bliss. Lighthouse is my number 2, but there was one more movie this year that I loved even more than this somehow. Let's get to that.
I want a goddamn steak! You're fond of me lobster, ain't you?
If I had a steak, I would fuck it.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, directed by Quentin Tarantino. I was not in the least prepared for this movie to really hit me the way it did. The story of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is so simple. It's a fairy tale movie about 1960s Hollywood. And it's really a love letter to the time period from Quentin Tarantino. There's so many little details in this that you could pick out, minuscule details that you could pick out that really make this movie a lot more than it actually is. The music, the radio, the way that he captured the streets, the characters, his recreation of 1950s Western TV shows and making his own, and just the way that he handles showing Hollywood sets and the way that people interact with each other during this time period. The big third act, the big climax of this movie, it's probably one of the most satisfying endings I've seen for a movie, and it's not going to be for everybody. Not everybody's going to watch this and be like, wow, this is captivating cinema, or for, I guess, a casual audience, this is boring as shit. What is this? But for me, I can't get enough of every individual frame of this. I love this movie. It's got great performances. I love Brad Pitt in this. Margot Robbie is kind of like a fairy tale Disney princess in this. People took her representation in a weird way and kind of spun it into a misogynistic way, but that's not what Quentin was going for. Quentin was a big fan of Sharon Tate when he was younger. He loved Sharon Tate, and this was, in his own little way, a tribute to her. I've been entranced with filmmaking in Hollywood in general for as long as I can remember, and withstanding all the cynicism of the business and how it's terrible sometimes, Quentin Tarantino explores and captures the magic of Hollywood in a way that few directors and few filmmakers ever do. And it's kind of similar to what La La Land was for me in 2016. This is a movie that really captures the magic for me, and it captures the magic so much that it really just entranced me, and it's my number 1 movie of the year. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Hey, you're Rick fucking Dalton. Don't you forget it.
And with that being said, these are my top 10 movies of 2019. I want to thank you all for tuning in and watching this. I really appreciate anybody who watched this. Movies are something else. It's just an art form that I've been loving as long as I can remember, and I'm just really appreciative and grateful to be on a platform where I could talk about it. And I'm just happy to be here again for another year talking about movies and sharing my thoughts on movies with anybody and anybody who wants to watch. Thank you again for tuning into this. But I want to know from all of you, boys and girls, what are your top movies of 2019? Let me know in the comments down below. What are some of your favorites? Any ones that I didn't mention in my honorable mentions or my top 10 list that you thought were one of the best of the year? And of course, the usual speak, if you took time out of your day to watch this and you enjoyed this, you could like it, you can subscribe if you haven't already, and you can also ring that bell so you'll never miss a video from me ever again when it comes out. Hopefully, we have some great movies on the horizon. I can't even tell you, there are some movies coming out this year that I am dying to watch. One of them is Tenet. I need that movie in my life right now. But without a doubt, in my opinion at least, we ended the 2010s with 2019 on a very high note when it comes to films. And we have a whole new decade, and who knows what's going to happen this decade? What's going to be the next big thing? In the 2000s, it was Harry Potter. In 2010s, it was the Marvel movies. What's going to happen this decade? What's going to happen? We're going to find out. You and me, all of us. As I said literally like a minute ago, movies are something else. Cheers to another year of movies, both good and bad. Just being in a theater or at home, whatever you're doing, here's to movies. Cheers. I should probably clean that up.